Now, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce our speaker of the day. You perhaps have heard of him. It is, without further ado, Mayor Dennis Hanwell.
Good afternoon. I appreciate all of you being here. I tried to make my way around the room and talk to many of you, but if I didn't, thank you. Thank you for coming today. I also want to recognize the sponsors just once more, Armstrong, Brooklyn Media, and Third Federal Savings and Loan for sponsoring the event today. To my left, to your right, in the front corner there are the department heads for the city. And I just want to recognize them. Some of you may recall in 2009 when I resigned as the police chief and in pursuit of becoming the next mayor for the city of Medina, I stated then, and I'll tell you today, that I wanted to keep the team together because the team works so well, and everything that you're going to see today in the presentation is a testament to what those folks do day in and day out. On September 1st of this year, I celebrated my 40th anniversary with the city of Medina, 26 on the police side and 14 in the mayor's office now. And it's been my honor and privilege to serve this fine city. And I want to mention Councilman Bill Lamb and former police chief Homer Chuck Davis, because in 1983, they gave me an opportunity that other cities and the federal government passed on, and my loyalty to this city is without question. There are a number of elected officials here. I would like to introduce them, but in the interest of time, the elected officials, if you could either wave or stand, and then at the very end, we'll thank them all together. From the city of Medina, we have Ward 4 Councilman Jim Shields, and our finance director, Keith Durham. From the county of Medina, we have Medina County Commissioner Aaron Harrison and County Recorder Linda Hoffman. From our school board, we have Andrew West and Rebecca Parkhurst. From our state, we have State Representative Sharon Ray. And we have 3 judges with us: Medina Municipal Court Judge Gary Warner, Judge Julie Schaefer of the Medina Domestic Relations Court, and Judge Bill Hudson from the Common Pleas Court. Please help me thank them. I'd also like to introduce some of the family members here with me next to the department heads. My mother, Nancy, her sister, Elaine and Carl from California. Christy is John's significant other, my son, Jonathan, and my daughter, Nicole, and my wife, Chris. Don't forget your wife. Don't forget your wife. Don Simmons had to remind me that years ago. So Chris and I celebrated our 45th anniversary in August, and I just want to publicly apologize to John and Christy and Chris, because this public service can be rough on a family. Not being able to attend things, having to interrupt things we're attending, having to leave early or arrive late. I'll just give you one brief example. In August 6th of 20, which happens to be Nicole's birthday, the whole family was at our house celebrating that birthday. And it was the same day we had the double homicide on Baxter Street. And I was in the dispatch center taking care of logistics and coordination of services and the needs of the department. And I ended up getting there for the birthday cake. But I missed the whole dinner. And that's just an example of what happens. And I know you all didn't sign up for that. Chris kind of did. But You all didn't sign up for that, and I appreciate you. And last but not least, at the family table, because she's like family, is Miss Janie Parrish. She's been my campaign director for all 4 elections, and has been very helpful, and we appreciate you very much, Janie.
The last 3, we didn't have to do anything.
Shh. I'm trying to help you out here. And then I'd like to thank Miles and Jared for the outstanding presentation that you're going to see here today. I do kind of the narrative, they do all the graphics and do an excellent job with it and impress me every year. And Sherry, I wanted to acknowledge as well, because she puts together the annual report of the city that we present to council and the public early in the year, and I use that kind of as the guideline for what we're going to talk about. So let's get into it. Our civil service office, well, let me tell you ahead of time, I'm not going to read what's on the screen because I have full faith in all of you that you can read those bullet points, although periodically I get off track and start. In addition to what you see on the screen there, civil service handles for us random drug testing and commercial driver's license testing that's required for all the staff. She works, this is Lorene, works with the hospital to provide the wellness program for the city and to keep track of who's meeting the requirements for the reduction in their health care premiums. And the other big job that she has is the certification of payroll biweekly. And that's important that you have an independent oversight of that. So the finance department does the payroll, processes the payroll, issues the checks, but then the civil service office also has to go through and double check it. So it's 2 sets of eyes on it. Our community development department, you can see it's comprised of those 3 divisions. This has worked very well for us. It's something we changed when probably my first year in office. We put them all at one location. It's much better, a customer service model. The other advantage of it is, it used to be if the building clerk took a week vacation or was sick for a couple days, nobody could fill in those gaps when we had individual offices. Now through cross-training, we can keep each one of those 3 divisions going. The Community Development Department updated our comprehensive plan, which council passed last August. And I just wanted to share something that we do that's a little bit different here in the city. We call it a pre-development meeting. And what it is if there's going to be a major investment in the community, be it industrial or commercial, we bring every department head in the city and together around a table. We also bring in the county sanitary engineer because they handle the sewers in the city. We bring in Ohio Edison. We bring in Columbia Gas. Every question that they may have, we want to have the answers right there at the table, so they're not having to come back and forth and back and forth. And I can tell you that's worked pretty well. And the gauge I have of that's worked pretty well is when you hear it from the people that are attending those meetings. So Chris Jones is the senior real estate manager for Myers. And he's worked in multiple states and told me at the end of that pre-development meeting he's never seen anything like this before. The other thing he had never seen before was a mayor sit in a 2-hour meeting with him. He said, usually I'm lucky if I can meet the mayor, and or if I do, it's about 30 seconds or 2 minutes or something. And he said the fact that you would stay here for 2 hours for the whole meeting, and I told him, look, we've been trying long and hard to get something in that vacant Kmart building, and whatever we have to do to support you and get this done is what we will do. So that's an example of the customer service that we try to provide. The building department, you can see both the revenues that were created with permits as well as commercial construction. I was approached by Nancy Nozick, is with Brandstetter Carroll. They're the architects that did the brand new court facility, the 4-story common pleas court that the judges are using now. And they also did the renovation of the 1841 courthouse. And they're helping us with the municipal court plans of moving the municipal court into the 1969 building, which is the one with the white pillars that you see on the east side of the square. But she shared this with me, that Dan Gladish and Mark Crumley, who's the city's fire inspector, are the best she's worked with in multiple states. Whatever they needed, whatever they could support her with, they were willing to do that. And then another example is March 10th of this year, we did a ribbon cutting. You can see that on the screen there for Crumble Cookies. And Dan Gladish found out that they were number 26 in line for their ovens. The ovens come from the corporation. They don't, each owner doesn't buy them themselves. So he was number 26 in line, and with Dan and Mark talking with him, we found out that if we could give them a temporary occupancy permit, they could then move from number 26 up the list. They moved up to number 3 and opened 6 weeks sooner than had we not issued that temporary occupancy permit. And those are type of the problem-solving things that we try to do day in and day out. And then just in July of this year, Carlisle Brake and Friction in the older section of their building had a partial roof collapse during one of our heavy rains. And DPS Roofing was pulling permits at the city. And I just happened to be walking by, and he stopped me and he said, "I work in communities in Ohio and all over." And he said, "Nobody has the staff and the help for people that you all have here." So that's a testament to our people. Our Economic Development Department, we plan a ribbon cutting on one Friday every month because we have a number of them. And we also want to get it on everybody's schedules. We pick Fridays so that our state representatives, our state senator, when they're available, can attend because they're not in session on Fridays. But they're attended with Main Street, the chamber, county, state officials, as well as liaisons of our federal legislators. And then I just wanted to talk to you about some of the investments in the city. So the North Court widening project that we did a few years ago, you can see a video of it there. That total project cost about $21 million. Now, the ODOT paid for the greatest portion of that, but the city pitched in extra to have the center islands, the decorative lights, and a multimodal path. But to date, since that project was developed, the renovation of that road, we have nearly $52 million in private investment. What that tells me is if the city invests, then the public sector will as well. $52 million. Now that includes, just for clarification, if anybody checks my math, that includes the proposed $20 million Myers that's going to happen. But I was impressed with that, and I was so impressed with it, I thought, well, let's take a look at the industry. Because when I took over as mayor, our industrial roads were pretty deplorable. And I approached the city council. We get a certain percentage of our income tax that goes right into infrastructure repair. And it's about 2.4 million a year. So I approached the council and said, not that I like to borrow money, but if we took bonds out, the bond payment would be about $200,000 a year. We could do those roads much faster than saving the $2 million year after year to do $14 million in roads, and get it done a lot faster. The council agreed with that, and by the way, if you have even on the conservative side 2.2 million, you still have $2 million to do all the other projects in town after the bond payment. So I asked the question of Kimberly, if the city invested $14 million, let me know what the industry has invested since 2011 when we started those road projects, and that number is $282 million in our industry. And that just shows that if the city invests, then private and commercial sectors will as well. And it also shows that there's something special about Medina and the desire to be here. Planning and zoning, as I mentioned, they updated the comprehensive plan for us. Our community development block grants fund public transit, code enforcement, Let's Make a Difference program, and fair housing. The Community Housing Impact and Preservation Grant, you may hear that referred to as CHIP in government talk. We partner with Brunswick, and as a result of that, we each get an extra $50,000. So $100,000 for the county, $50 for the city, $50 for Brunswick. And the reason for that is the state is only paying one city to do the administration instead of two cities. So by one handling it and making it more effective and efficient, we were able to bring in another $100,000 to the two communities. We're working now on a multi-use path plan being conducted by Envision in collaboration with Medina County Parks and with a great deal of citizen and business input. And what we're looking at doing really in our industrial area is how to connect the various trails and paths that we have already. And the hope is to eventually be able to access some of those industrial areas by bike or by walking instead of by car. Because if you don't have a car or you don't have a driver's license, you're going to have a hard time getting out there walking along Lafayette Road. So that's in the works right now. With our engineering department, you can see the construction projects from the past year. And we always try to couple the grant dollars with local dollars because it helps us spread them over more. Our engineering department, by the way, has Patrick and Fred. So we have two people that do all this work, and at time it gets a little bit overwhelming, and they do a great job with it. So this year and next year, our projects are expected to be in excess of $14 million. So it's a lot of work for two people, is the point. So what you're seeing on the screen there now is the city, as many of you know, because it probably interrupts your travel nearly every day, is redoing all of West Smith Road from Court Street to the fairgrounds. So before the fair, we were paving the area from Champion Creek, which is down by Loggerheads, if you need a reference point, all the way to Baxter Street. And this is a video of the cement trucks backing in, dumping, pulling out, next one backing in and dumping. This project took a day, but it was in total 96 trucks, and each truck has 90 minutes to purge that cement out of the truck. So obviously we couldn't line up 96 trucks. They're going and refilling, coming back, going and refilling. So the coordination of that, but it's really kind of interesting if you take a look at that machine, because it takes the raw concrete, finishes it, pours the entire street at once with the two curbs as it's slowly moving down the street. And I can tell you it's a lot easier than doing it with a bunch of people on their hands and knees and brushes. And then the next screen is we did a railroad repair at AI Route Candles. I appreciate, sir, I understand now that's caused some speeding concerns that we're trying to deal with. Because see, when it's a little bit rougher, those trucks have to slow down to go over it. Well, now we made it too smooth, and they're going a little too fast, so we'll work on addressing that. And it's something that we also have to upkeep. And I wanted to mention that because of what they saw in Palestine, and also mention the fact that in the trucks, in the city of Medina, our trucks are going very slowly. If you've ever been stopped by one and you need to get somewhere, you know what I'm saying. They don't move real fast through the city. That's a blessing and a curse, right? A blessing because if there is we've had a number of minor derailments, and the car just gets off the track, got to come back, jack it up, put the new rail in underneath it, and then put it back down. It's not as problematic. The curse is then you can't get to where you need to go. Our fire department, they work very closely with police and LST. and service not only the city, but the 2 townships you see listed there. Right now, we're staffing 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to midnight. So from midnight to 8, we have an on-duty officer, an officer on call. So they respond immediately. They check it out. They find out, do we need staff? How much staff do we need? What type of equipment do we need? And that's still working pretty well for us. There will come a point in time. I'm hoping 2 years and 4 months from now that the city may have to take a hard look at full-time fire. Full-time fire works very well, just so you all are aware of what I'm aware. Full-time fire works very well when you're providing fire and EMS, because there aren't enough fire calls to justify paying staff to sit around waiting on the calls to come in. But the city of Medina and myself with the administration, and I know the council, has been very appreciative. Dr. Shoebridge is here, of the services of LST since the mid-'70s. They provided an excellent service for us, and we're still trying to figure out a way to try to have full-time fire but leave EMS with the Cleveland Clinic Hospital, because it's top-notch health care. Right, doctor? Top-notch health care. Yep. So anyway, we'll work on that. The fire department's very involved in community and public relations. We're working on an improved equipment for our staff. There you'll see a video of the new self-contained breathing apparatuses. The ones they had were outdated, couldn't be certified anymore, and that just wasn't safe for our staff. So we were able to use some of the ARPA grant monies to replace those for them. The other thing that we just recently approved for them are thermal imaging cameras. The advantage of that is from outside the structure, they can identify where those hot points are. It actually gives them the temperature. It can also see through the house filled with smoke to identify the heat coming off a body laying on the floor that they can't see. That helps them to coordinate the response and is safer for our staff. So we're buying 4 of those units, so we have 1 in each response vehicle. The fire department provides first aid, CPR, and basic life support trainings for the public, as well as fire extinguisher trainings. And they're also, on a number of occasions, have saved the young ducklings and geese that fall into the storm sewers. You have to pull the grate off and reach down in there and get them out. And Nino and Cindy from the court, and I don't want to exclude them, they had a group of ducklings that got separated from their mother in the parking deck outside City Hall and helped reunite them. So while I'm still on the fire department, let me just mention, because again, back to the example in Palestine, our fire department and our police department train regularly with Medina County Emergency Management Agency. And those of you that have been here for a little while may remember the fairgrounds explosion that we had. Several weeks before that fairgrounds explosion, we had a tabletop and field exercise at the fairgrounds of what would happen if some weather event came through and toppled a number of the rides with all of the people there. So those 2 scenarios are a little bit different, but the result is the same thing. You're dealing with a large amount of mass casualties that you have to be able to triage and decide who's going by helicopter, who's going by ambulance, who's taking care of where each of those are going, because one hospital can't manage that volume of people. So I share that with you just to tell you that we're constantly in that training. So we are prepared. I hope it never happens, but we are prepared when something terrible happens like that. In our law department, you can see our staffing levels, and they cover the same jurisdiction as Judge Warner does in the municipal court, with the exception of Brunswick City. Brunswick City provides their own prosecutor. for cases down in the municipal court, but we handle all the rest. And the city benefits from Greg Huber as well, because he handles all legal matters for the city as well as all contracts. I won't sign a contract. I'm required to sign every contract. I won't sign a contract until Mr. Huber reviews it and makes sure that everything's in good order and there's nothing that's going to tie our hands later. And Greg was very involved, as was Judge Hudson when he was Commissioner Hudson, and Chris Jacob and Mike Lyons in helping us work through the details of the lease for the municipal court operations to move over to the square. And when you think about that scenario, now we have all those court operations at one location. I can tell you that maybe not daily, but weekly, people at the municipal court looking for the common pleas court, or the common pleas court looking for the municipal court. It's a lot easier to send them down the hall and get them in the right place. It's more convenient for the public, it's more convenient for the attorneys, and it also saves both the county taxpayers and the city taxpayers money, because we're not duplicating the same services, such as the security checkpoint, such as the holding area for prisoners, such as staffing costs and the utility costs. So by the city paying a portion of that along with the county, you all save as a result of that. Our community rec center, as you can see, is 20 years old. We have a video here of the fitness room expansion taking place. This was a collaboration with Medina City Schools. When they expanded the high school, they also built the Performing Arts Center and the Rec Center, which the city now leases from them. So when it was designed, if you take a look at that little curved front there, it was designed to actually take that wall and jet it out when there was a need for expansion. And they have the concrete laid here shortly. You're going to see the walls are now coming up, and then it's a matter of just extending the roofing over it. A number of years ago, the city partnered with the schools. We were each contributing $100,000 a year for capital improvements such as this. But we knew as the building was getting older and older, $100,000 a year from both of us, or $200 a year total, would not be enough. So we both increased our contributions to $150,000 a year, and then that helps with things like this, as well as grants from the state of Ohio. Thank you, Sharon Ray. We're replacing ongoing replacement of aged equipment by having Jansen overseeing the rec center now. That gives us the ability to partner between the rec center and the parks. So they're doing a lot of community events together, and Jansen's doing a great job in overseeing that. Medina TV, I'd like to thank Miles and Jared again for the slides that you're seeing and the videos. They've been providing video services to the city for 27 years. They also partnered with Main Street and the commissioners because they're seeing some of their revenues drop as some people are moving off of Armstrong. No disrespect to Armstrong, just you know it as well as I do. Some people are moving away from the cable services. So they partnered with the Medina County Commissioners and Main Street to bring in some outside revenue to help replace some of that revenue that we were losing. The Medina Cable office, or Medina TV office, always goes to our ribbon cuttings too, and they take a video of the entire event that we then provide to the new business to use for their own marketing or to share on their own website. And Barbara is always gracious enough to take still photos and then provides them with a disc with all of those too for the same reasons. The future of Medina TV will likely become a communications department for the city, which would then add some consistency in press releases and how information is shared and distributed. Medina TV currently uses Facebook and YouTube, but they're researching how to use software to expand their programming also to Apple TV, Roku, and Fire Stick, which some of the people are moving towards. And then that way we can still share the information in a multitude of ways. And Barbara does a city newsletter every week, and we have about 2,500 subscribers that again, we're able to share information with. Our Parks Department, you can see the divisions there. The advantage of this, again, much like the Community Development Department, we have one part-time parks clerk. She works 29 hours a week. And we're able to use that parks clerk to help if somebody comes in to buy a cemetery lot, instead of pulling the people out of the field to stop what they're doing and take care of that. And no disrespect to them, but you know, sometimes they're a little bit dirty from the work they're doing. Sometimes they smell like oil and gasoline. And the experience is much better with somebody in the office. She also helps then as there's calls for the forestry department. You know, there's a tree blocking a sign, or a branch broke off and it's you know, laying across the sidewalk or across the road. So it's really using that one part-time clerk very effectively and efficiently. And then Miles shared some information with you, and I was intrigued, so I thought I would share it with you. So the city has a number of amenities in our parks, but we have a remote control raceway in Reagan Park, and we have Frisbee golf courses at a couple of our parks. Well, when I was in high school, the vocational people didn't tell me that you could be a professional remote control race car driver or Frisbee golf player, but apparently we have people from our community that both use these things and now are professional, getting paid to race cars or throw Frisbees. Who would have known? Our Parks Department, we have a project going on right now. We have a bad erosion problem. We had to shut down some fields at Huffman Cunningham Park. You can see MTD is helping us out. We're having a hard time sometimes getting laborers, and having MTD volunteer to help us mow some large areas to evaluate their equipment was very, very helpful to us. The sports associations also help. The soccer helps with soccer. Baseball helps with their infields. We did a parking lot extension or expansion, if you will, at Mellert Park. You can see there beyond the splash pad is kind of the golden color. And then the restroom, playground on the left, on the right is the brand new dog park. We're going to close the one at Memorial Park, which is down and wet and muddy all the time, and open this new one. And again, Sharon Ray helped us with a capital grant from the state of Ohio to help us fund that. We're finalizing plans, council approved last night, to upgrade our skate park because it was done so many years ago, it's starting to deteriorate as well. And I also want to mention the Willard Stevenson and the Lincoln Foundations. Both of them helped with the Miracle League baseball field that we have at our park. Those of you that may not be familiar with that, it's a baseball field for handicapped youth and adults. Both play there. They play almost every day of the week, weather permitting, and also multiple games every day. Well, the problem was, and that's where the foundations helped us, the problem was we had the infield was hard surfaced, but if you were in a wheelchair or a walker or something that didn't have the mobility, you couldn't go out and play the outfield. And the board didn't feel that was fair, that the team should be able to play whatever position they wanted to play. So these two foundations split the cost of that to then hard rubber. the entire outfield, and now each one of those individuals has the ability to play on that field, and we're very thankful for that. Our forestry department, we planted these trees decades ago, and they grew, and sometimes are problematic. You know, sometimes they're raising sidewalks, sometimes they're blocking traffic control devices, sometimes they're falling, but they do a great job with it. We just celebrated our 41st Tree City USA Award. They also work with the Kiwanis for an arbor tree giveaway. So this video I thought you'd find helpful. So that's our forester up in a tree. If you look down on the left corner there, you can see the brick road. This is the 200 block of North Elmwood Street, just south of West North. That little blue house was just renovated, and you can see how the tree, that's a 2.5-story house, how the tree dwarfs that house to get a perception of size. The other thing was earlier in the video, but you can actually see the utility lines about 30, 40 feet below them there, because they're exposed utility lines along there. So they have a lot to keep up with. The other thing I want to tell you that we do a little bit differently is every time we have a storm, we tease Patrick all the time, we have 100-year storms like every 2 or 3 months here in Medina. Every time we have a storm like that is going to cause some damage to trees, be it private trees, city trees, or both, we stop what we're doing, and the forestry department goes out and the street department goes out, and what they can cut up and haul away, they do. What they can chip, they chip. But we will spend the next several days, however long it takes, to get the city back into the shape that it needs to. And both our forestry and our streets department under Nino's authority makes that happen each and every storm. We wish there weren't quite so many, but the cemetery staff, we have 2 different cemeteries that they work on. I always like to mention the Friends of the Cemetery. The Friends of the Cemetery have, to date, donated in excess of $2.4 million in projects, predominantly at the Spring Grove Cemetery. And they're working on another project now to redo the mausoleum roof, which is having some water issues. And they also helped us in achieving level 2 accreditation from ArbNet Arboretum. We're working internally on a computer program which will help us, will help the public then search for internments. So they want to know where their friend is or their family member is. They can find this once the program is built. And then we're also building, it's not been that long that we built a second columbarium, and now we're in need of a third one because the second one is pretty near sold out already. And then the Independent Order of the Odd Fellows, Morning Star Lodge 26, they care for the baby section of the cemetery, and it's all the infants and young ones there. It's very well maintained, very well landscaped, and they do a good job with that day in and day out. Our police department provides services there, as you can see, not only to the city but to Lafayette Township. They also collaborate with LST and fire. So a story, you may have heard this. If you haven't, I'll share it with you quick. But the reason we send a police officer to every medic call is an officer can get there in a minute or 2. The squad is coming from a fixed location generally, and it could take 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 or 8 minutes, depending on traffic and time of day, and as well as from where they're responding from. So one of our newer officers, young officer Lauren Brooks, responded to a medic call that a young lady was having a baby, and got on the scene and within minutes, and it was evident to her that the baby was not going to wait for the squad. And that officer, with assistance from the family members, delivered that baby right there in the area of the front door, and handed the baby off then when the squad members got there to take care of that baby. And without that officer there, then that poor family would be trying to sort through that on their own. Our officers have helped with people that were literally bleeding to death by putting tourniquets on limbs. We've trained them in trauma medicine. We also had somebody had a hand severed. They were able to get it packed in ice and stop the bleeding until the medics got there. So this is just a part of the collaboration and partnership that makes the city work so well. On this video, you'll see our officers are also lifeguards when deer jump in pools. So what we used there was a little latch that we try to get stray dogs or dogs running loose, and they were able to get that around the deer's neck without choking it, get it to the edge where an officer could physically curl it out of the pool. And at first it looks like it's having some trouble just because it had been struggling for so long. But eventually, if you watch the video after it gets on the other side of that pole, it is able to stand up on its own and take off. So it did survive. There's another one, this one, where a whole family went for a swim. And again, some of them, because they get so worked up when people start getting around the pool, some of them were able to jump back out of it, and others had to be assisted out. I want to talk a little bit about technology use. We have body cameras, car cameras, as well as we take advantage of cameras in the community. So many people have doorbell cameras, so many businesses for security have their own cameras. So when we're trying to do crime solving, we're looking for the car that kept driving back and forth. We're looking for the person that kept walking back and forth in front of the house. We use all of those resources. This is an interesting video. That's Detective Jeff Smith operating the city police drone, and the video is done by Miles Reed with a Medina TV drone, taking those photos of it. But the drones are very helpful in identifying hot spots for fires, helping in locating missing persons, being elderly or children, and also in identifying fleeing suspects. So especially after dark, somebody runs into a park or a wooded area, we try to set up a perimeter, and instead of physically going in there with flashlights and trying to locate them, if you just hold the perimeter, get the drone up in the air, the hot spot is going to help identify where that person is curled up somewhere trying to hide from us. It'll also find deer and other wildlife, so you have to sort out what you're seeing, but it does help. And then on January 4th of this year, our police department had a traffic stop, and there were 3 Spanish-speaking males from Guatemala. And they were having trouble. I could hear on the radio. I was on my way into work in the morning, and I could hear on the radio they were trying different departments for somebody that could help them communicate with these folks. So I radioed to the dispatch to get a hold of Miles, because Miles can speak a number of languages. And Miles was able to meet the sergeant there, interact with them, and not only was Miles impressed, but the 3 males from Guatemala were impressed because their experience with law enforcement is not community policing and, how you doing today, and this is why I stopped you. So everybody came away from that feeling a great deal better. Our service department, you can see it's those 4 divisions there. And again, Nino does an excellent job of staffing between those divisions and meeting the ever-challenging needs. We have a common union for all of those 4 divisions, as well as Parks, Cemetery, and Forestry. They're all in the Teamsters Union. The advantage of that, then, is we have some event going on in the parks, and we need to pull people from these other divisions over there to help with that. And the next day, we're short 2 people in the sanitation department. Those same parks workers can go over there. The Teamsters are happy with it, the staff are happy with it, because we're keeping people employed, keeping them working, and we don't change what they're paid. They still get paid as if they were in their home department, but it just gives us a lot more flexibility of using people more effectively and efficiently. The sanitation department, you can see the amount of trash they take to the central processing facility, and we try to divert as much as we can versus just sending it to the landfill. So from April to November, we collect yard waste, and we diverted 335 tons last year, 1,200 tons of organic recycling, 545 tons of vegetable-based waste, and 275 tons of commercial cardboard. So here's an interesting story. We went to dump a dumpster at 5:30 in the morning on May 8th behind Center Point Plaza, and they dumped the dumpster successfully into the truck. And as he's putting the dumpster back, I wasn't even aware of this, so I learned this, there's a camera on the truck that sees movement now in what was just dumped into the truck, and at some point is likely to be compacted. So the driver was acute enough to notice that, stop what he was doing as the fella's climbing out now of the top of the garbage truck, and he told the driver that he had lost his keys and his phone, and he was in there looking for them, and lo and behold, we come and empty the dumpster. And so we took that truck then, and when we dumped it, our staff took the time to kind of go through the trash, and were able to recover his phone. We never found the keys, but we recovered the phone. And Miles, again, it's a recurring theme here, Miles, with his Spanish ability, was able to look through the phone contacts, determine who the owner of the phone was, because this person didn't bother to give us his name when he jumped out of our truck. And he took off. So, and then just one other thing with sanitation, and that's fine there, Jared. I had an employee stop me. He's been with the city for 33 years, and he's retiring here either the end of this month or early next month. His name's Tony Hall. And he said, I just want to share something with you, Mayor. He said, when I started here 33 years ago, I told my wife I'm going to stay here until something better comes along. And he said, this has been one of the best places I've ever worked in my life, and I just want to let you know that. So it was good to hear that the staff appreciate what the city does and their employment here. Our streets department, you can see basically what they're doing there, and some people think maybe the sanitation does the LEAF program. That's actually in our street department. We did 319 loads last year, which was up from 242 in 2021. And we're seeing dead deer pickups increasing every year. In 2020, we had 29. 2021, we had 55. And 2022, we had 86. The street department also hangs the American flags in the city. Our vehicle maintenance department, they handle both licensed vehicles and then motorized equipment like your trimmers and blowers and things like that. What we do is each department pays for the parts, pays for the labor, and then we self-fund the operation. The advantage of that is if we have a police car or a fire truck and we need to move that ahead of the other ones that were waiting in line, by handling it ourselves, we can do that. And we found that we can do it more efficiently and effectively than contracting it out. So on this next video, we had a bit of a dilemma. This is the competition pool at the rec center, and that lower right corner, if you keep your eye on that, that's called a bulkhead. Again, I wasn't sure what a bulkhead was, but for those of you who may not know, like me, when the water is in there, that bulkhead can be moved from length to length and create different lengths of the pool. But when the water's not in there, that 1-ton bulkhead does not move very well. So our vehicle maintenance department, that's why it's in this slide, our vehicle maintenance department got together with the school maintenance staff, and they figured out that if they could lift at the 2 gutter lines and put wooden frames with rollers on the bottom, it still took a lot of people to push a ton, but they were able to move that back and forth during the reconditioning of the pool. And that just shows you the innovation and engineering of what our staff are capable of. Our water department, you can see the meters there that we do day in and day out. We upgraded to radio frequency to cell service so that we can get alerts when our towers are going down, which either means a water break or some malfunction. So that's very helpful for us to know in a timely manner. They're also responsible for doing all of the utility locates for the cable folks. We operate the Medina Municipal Airport. I wanted to specifically mention Earl Olson and Flight Services, who have operated it for many, many years. The city is now in the process of transitioning to a new management team. We also bought the property to the east. It was called the Tots Farm. That will let us put more hangars in, a larger maintenance area, and our hope is at some point to expand that runway so we can land small jets. Our current runway is not quite long enough, and insurance doesn't like it if you're not on a runway that's at least so many feet long. So that's our hope, and by having small jets, more fuel sales, more maintenance, more hangars, that creates revenue to match with the federal funds to make the airport more self-sufficient in the future. Community partners, we work with the Kiwanis on a number of events. The Rotary just yesterday, they had the 9/11 memorial at 10 a.m. Next to Fire Station 1. They upkeep that memorial for us. The Lions Club routinely donates foods to the Cups Cafe. We have probably 4 or 5 pages of collaborations with Medina City Schools, things we do to help them out, things they do to help us out, and we're proud of that. Our collaboration with Medina Chamber and Main Street, the Medina County Commissioners, we do a great deal of work together, support one another, and help one another in any way we can. The churches, for our seniors or disabled, they have 2 events called Love Medina, one in the spring that's done by Grace Church, and one in the fall done by St. Francis. In our churches, a number of our pastors are here. We have an annual Unity Festival, 3-day Unity Festival, a lunch for police department members, Martin Luther King Jr. and Black History Month events, a Veterans Day concert, and just on August 28th, a Community Alliance project where they had food and games and activities for all the youth in the northwest sector of the city. Nobody checked IDs, so if some of those snuck in from the rest, they fed them too. But it's always a great event. And the city provides monies to SPCA and the Medina Meow Fix to help with some of those programs. So some of the things that kind of make Medina special. We got a call in January of this year, January 19th, in Liberty Woods that they believe the landscaper for the homeowners association removed the grate from the drain pipe so the water would go down faster, but all the trees and branches and leaves and everything else that go with that water ended up plugging it up. So our street department responded immediately. We're able to get all the stuff cleaned out of there, get the grate back on, and then they were going to notify the landscapers, leave the grate on there. Nino, again, we had a problem with the West Smith Road construction issue. They dug trenches in the side we weren't ready to pave yet, so from Court Street to Loggerheads there. And then they were filling it with gravel, but every time somebody would drive on the road, the gravel's getting kicked out. Well, we wanted to get it a little bit nicer for the fair, so we actually put just a top coat of blacktop on there just to get the fair in and done, and now it'll go back to the regular paving. We Also, I wanted to mention once more the collaborative effort with the Board of County Commissioners on the municipal court, and Commissioner Harrison is here, and we appreciate all his work on that. Our finance department, got to move along here. We have the lowest income tax rate, as you can see, and then I'll let you read the slide there. As far as I'm very pleased with the third bullet point, though, because when I started, we were generating about $12 million in income tax. In 2022, we generated $17.5 million, and in this year we're projecting $20 million. And when I ran for mayor, one of the things I talked about was we were going to improve our practices, we were going to create more jobs, raise the income tax monies without raising it on our residents, and this is an example of successfully doing that. So we had a elderly resident that called one of our clerks in finance, Jenny, and she wasn't sure that she was physically capable to come in and pay her water bill. So Jenny told her, well, you just park in the garage, you call this number, I'll run out, I'll get your payment, go ahead and process it, and I'll bring you the receipt. So Jenny's watching and waiting, and for the lady to call. Pretty soon she sees her trying to make her way to the finance window. So Jenny left her position, went out there, assisted the lady to the front window, processed her payment for her, and then walked her back to the car. And that is an example of how our people take care of other people. And then just one other brief example is we had a problem with the mail. It's getting near shut-off, and we're not getting any mail for several days. So I got Keith Durham, the finance director, a contact for the post office in downtown Cleveland, and lo and behold, they've got a truck full of mail from Medina that was never dispatched out to our annex to be delivered to you all. So once they got the truck out of there, lo and behold, we started to get our mail. So I want to set up this video for you, and we're nearing the end. We had a ribbon cutting in April for a trucking company called Gabiak, and it's called Gabiak Corporation. They're a logistics trucking company. But the importance is, in 1999, the entire family immigrated from the Ukraine to the United States. In 2007, the father, Mikhail Gabiak, who you're going to see in a minute, obtains his CDL. In September of 13, in their house, they started Gabiak Corporation and ran a home office for less than 10 years. And then they built and opened up this facility in Medina with 22 trucks, and they're still growing in less than 10 years. But he talks about his appreciation of the country and the community. And it moved me when I heard it the first time. It moves me every time I see the video, and I wanted to play that for you.
I want to also say thank you everyone for coming. My speech can't be good like my kids. My English not very good enough. But anyway, first of all, I want to say thanks God for America. It was a blessing for us to be here. Yeah, like we hear all story here. My kids already told from the beginning, and I want to thank God especially for Medina. We really like this country, this city. This was a blessing for us, and thank you everyone for coming for this beautiful day, and. Thank you.
So with that, I'd like to thank you. Here you'll see Princess Madison, she'll be 8 this December, and Prince Aidan, who will be 4. I know you've all watched them grow up. If you've been here for some of the prior, this is the first that their mother was able to attend, and we're blessed to have them here in the community with you. So with that, I want to conclude by thanking all of you for your support and investment in our community. This is my 14th State of the City to you, And each year, I'm further and further impressed with how you all support and help and promote me, our staff, and our fine community. It's very much appreciated. And in closing, may God bless each of you and your families in the great city of Medina.